Hey y'all, welcome to the Team LocoFit Roundtable, hosted by me, Laurin Conlon, owner of Team LocoFit. Each week, I am joined by one of our coaches to dive headfirst into the nutrition, training, mindset, and coaching strategies we use with our clients. If you loved the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, tell a friend, you know the drill. And for more information about coaching, the programs we offer, and additional content, visit teamlocofit.com. All right, welcome back, you guys. I'm joined this week by Coach Sam.
Hello.
And this podcast, so when we talked about, we have like a monthly content meeting, and Sam was like, why don't we do one on food-centric events? And I was like, food-centric events? I was like, all right, it's kind of a weird name. And now, since you said that in the meeting, literally, I say food-centric all the time.
It works.
Because it's not always a holiday. Like, this isn't just a holiday, but obviously holidays can be food centric. But this could be, a wedding or a graduation or just any kind of like summer event. There's so many events that happen, especially over the summer, that are food centric. So we wanted to go over this as just like a general topic for you guys, because, summer is happening and it's really interesting. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I want to diet for summer. And I actually find that a lot of clients really do better when they diet outside of summertime, because there's so many other things happening. And now, do I have clients who are in cuts or preps right now? Of course. But as a general kind of like thing that I've noticed, like a trend, so many people either travel or they have these food centric events and they want to be social, so we can definitely make it work. But it does make it a little bit more challenging, especially if your goals are, the more extreme your goals, the more challenging, which we always talk about, you guys know. But let's get into it. And we want to be very specific here because, food-centric events, can be very overwhelming for people. It doesn't matter how many you've been to. And of course, like, some are going to be easier than others, depending on the context of everything else going on in your life. But one thing we wanted to touch on first was about being specific with your goals. So I want you to talk about that, Sam, because I thought that was such a great point and really like the crux of everything that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So like, it's really easy, especially in these, like, I feel like summer events are so sneaky because when you go to like Thanksgiving or Christmas, like, there's going to be a ton of food. You're prepared. You're like mentally like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. But then you go to like a barbecue and it's like, it's just a barbecue. And then you get there and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much food. Like, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want to do? I don't want to blow up my diet. I don't want to or even if you're just working on habits, like, how do I make this fit, like what I'm working towards. And so I think one of the things you can do is try to be really specific on the approach you're going to take to an event before you even go, and set specific, like, I don't I guess like specific measures for yourself or specific goals for yourself. Like, I'm going to have 3 drinks. I'm going to have at least 2 servings of protein throughout the day. And I'm going to make sure that if there are vegetables there, like, I'm going to have a vegetable or something, and have like those ticks that you're going to meet. And this is something that I worked with one of my clients, and I'm gonna have her listen to this because I'm so proud of her for this. She's somebody who loves to travel and takes like these beautiful, gorgeous trips with her husband all the time. And it used to be a thing where she would go on the trip and we would say, like, she'd say, I don't want to track. If I'm not going to track, if I'm not going to be able to track, I don't even want to try. And it's like, okay, I think we could do it, but go for it. And it always throw us off or like bring us back a few steps. And this time we set very specific expectations that were realistic for her. Not, I'm going to work out every day and I'm going to eat clean and I'm going to not have anything to drink. It was, I'm going to have 5 sugary drinks a day. And that was less than what she was having before. So it maybe wasn't ideal, but we at least had this specific thing. And when we set these like 5 specific guidelines, she came back, was like, that was the best trip I've ever taken. I adhered to everything I wanted to because they were specific. They were realistic for her in that situation. And they kind of fit, they still were aligned with her goals as opposed to being completely like the absolute opposite. So while a vacation is a time you could do this for sure, I mean, even like those smaller events, if you go into them and say, like, I'm going to do these things, doesn't have to be big things, can be very easy things. Like, I'm going to actually drink water today rather than just seltzers. Like, that's a goal and that's healthier than it would have been otherwise, but it's specific.
No, and I think that that's so important because we talk a lot about obviously black and white thinking and trying to get away from that. But especially with vacations, because they are extended, and that is really easy to be like, fuck it, I don't know what's in this, I don't care. And
Yeah.
while certainly five, what do you call it, five sugary drinks a day is not something that we're going to have on a daily basis, this is a trip that
Mhm.
she's probably taking once a year or whatever, right? Like this is a trip that she's looking forward to.
Mhm.
That is something that she enjoys. And five is better than 10 because she's going to have some, right? And it doesn't matter what, like, it could be the drinks for you, it could
Mhm.
be a certain type of food that you like, or a certain dessert, or whatever it might be. Like, if you want those things, you're going to have to work them in a certain capacity. So it's better than saying, I'm
Mhm.
not going to do anything, or I'm going to have 10 of these. And instead of saying, it's not realistic to say zero. So, okay, let's have
Mhm.
something that is measurable here.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's going to depend too on what sets you off, right? So, some people, it is alcohol, right? And I know that for a lot of clients that I work with, and I'm sure you too, you know, once they start drinking, that's when things can kind of derail. It's not necessarily the alcohol itself, it's what will happen afterwards. If somebody is like, oh, as soon as if I have more than two drinks, then I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna eat, or stay out late and then eat something that maybe I shouldn't, or whatever, right? It's like, okay, well, you know, doesn't mean that you can't have those drinks, but we need to have a little bit of, restraint around, and say, okay, I'm going to go into this and I'm either going to just have these and that's going to be it, or people will like snack a lot, right? Like, oh, I start drinking and then I just start
Right.
snacking. It's like, well, if you want to continue to have the drinks because you enjoy them and you're having them in a healthy way, not in like a necessarily unhealthy way, why don't we like just say, okay, no snacks, or just if you're at home, don't have those around, or whatever. Like, it's going to depend on the person. We have to figure out
Yeah.
what that trigger is for them. And so for some people, it's like, when I see a dessert table, I can't stop myself, right? And it's like, okay. And that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, which I think comes up all the time. And this isn't just dessert, but I feel like it happens a lot with dessert. And it's just the idea of like, I'll just take a bite, or I'll just have a few bites. And then at the end of the night or day or whatever, you realize you're like, I had like 6 bites, and 6 bites worked out to be however much. But now I feel really guilty about it because I didn't necessarily mean to have all that, but I did. And now I kind of feel weird about it. Whereas if you were to
Mhm.
say, listen, I'm at this table, they have all these gorgeous desserts, and I like, what's the one that I want the most? Okay, this cookie looks amazing, or this slice of cake looks amazing. Instead of saying, I'll just have a bite, I'll have a bite, I'll have a bite, and then you realize you had a lot and now you feel bad. No, decide, I'm going to have one piece of cake. I'm going to have two cookies. You put them on your plate. This is it. I'm going to have it and I'm going to enjoy it and move forward. So you're still enjoying it, but you're
Mhm.
actually enjoying it and not eating it out of like, well, maybe nobody will see that I'm having these bites, and I'll just trick
Mhm.
my brain into thinking that I'm not really eating it. And then you
Yeah.
realize later that because that's what you're doing. Like, you're only doing that
That
because you're tricked. Like, I'm not having the whole thing. It's fine.
doesn't count.
And it's like, no, we don't want to feel guilty about this. Like, there should not be any guilt involved here. It should be okay.
Yeah.
If you want it, you make the conscious decision to have it. And if you also decide that you don't want it, that's also the conscious decision to not have it. Like, you have to make a decision, you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really powerful when we make that choice and say, I'm not letting this dessert table control me. And every time I walk by, I'm breaking off a piece of a cookie or having some of the cake. Say, I'm having it. I'm going to have it. I'm going to enjoy it. It's on my plate. I see it fully, and then I move
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've
No,
dealt with
that's
that, but I've certainly dealt with that. Like, and it's just, yeah,
oh yeah. Oh yeah. The worst is
especially
like
dessert. Dessert is my thing.
desserts are the worst. And like when you're at your like for me, it's always when I'm at my parents' house. My mom always has some kind of treat, and it's like I'll just have like a half a cookie, and then like another half cookie, and then like another half cookie, and it's just like if I would have just ate a cookie, it wouldn't have mattered. And sometimes it's a conscious choice, and that's fine to say like one wasn't enough, and that's fine. But it's got to be like again a conscious choice, and not just like this sneaky like it doesn't count if it's not a full bite or if it's not a full cookie, it doesn't count. It's like no, it still counts, and that's it's going to depend on what season of life you're into. Like if you are like someone who's trying to be more flexible and like relaxed a little bit, like maybe you do need that extra half, and that's like good for you mentally to be able to do that without guilt. But it can also be the unknown that causes that anxiety for people who are trying to get away from like tracking, or even if you are tracking especially, it's the unknown that can be the worst. So it's like you really don't know what you've eaten if you've just grabbed a little bit here and there, but you can like say like I know what I had, and like I can be okay with that, as opposed to the unknown adding to the anxiety.
For sure. And I think just making that decision, okay, what do I want here?
Mhm.
And that is the one great thing about whether it's like a party or an event, some food centric event. A lot of times you can see it, ahead of time. Like you can see, okay, everybody brought it and they put it on this table, or like if it is like a holiday, okay, we know so and so brought this and that. So it's not really like a surprise. It's not just like, what are they going to bring around next? Like, you
Yeah.
kind of know what is there. So you're able to make that decision. Or if it's like an event with like a buffet type style, like you can pretty much see like what's there, and you can say, okay, let me, have more of this and just a little bit of that. And that's how you're
Yeah.
able to make those choices. So I was just at a event this past weekend. It was kind of a mixed weekend and week. And there was one of the attendees, she runs a amazing bakery out of St. Louis. And she had provided cupcakes, and I could have easily said no to a cupcake because it was like 11 o'clock and I don't really need a cupcake, but
Mm.
they looked so good, and they had a cookies and cream one, which like I am all about cookies and cream stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna have this, and then at lunch, because it was like a buffet style, like I'm just gonna have less carbs and I'm not gonna have any really added fats here. I made that
Yeah.
choice, right? Like, did I have to have that? No. But did I want to? Yes. And I wasn't like, let me just have a little taste of it. Like, I just had it and I enjoyed it and it was fucking awesome. And then I adjusted at my other meal. And that's how you
I
can do
think,
it in that situation.
yeah, I think what you just said is really important too, to distinguish the choice that you made was a conscious choice on both ends to have it and then to have a lighter lunch. It wasn't I had this, so now I can't have carbs, I can't have fats. It's no, I want to balance it out. I want to make that choice. And I feel like a lot of times clients can be like, am I compensatory right now? Am I restricting because I'm not eating whatever I want at lunch because I had a cupcake? It's like, no. We've talked about restriction and restraint before, and you're exhibiting restraint and you're making a conscious, healthy decision. And if you were to say, like, I had that cupcake and I was still really hungry and I needed to have,
Yeah.
rice with my chicken or whatever, like that's, or, whatever is there, it doesn't matter. But you're still making that conscious choice. And it's not that like voice in the back of your head saying, don't you dare, you can't have it, you can't have it, you can't have it. There's a big, big difference. And if you're having that, that voice in the back of your head that's restricting you, then yeah, that's something we need to talk about. But there's nothing wrong with making that choice to balance out your decisions.
That is real moderation. And just to plug it, because in case anybody listening here is in St. Louis, Cake House Design was the place, and Lindsay's awesome. She makes really, really good stuff. So I would 100% recommend it if you're in the area. So next part,
Yeah.
expressing your goals to others. And this is
Yeah.
something that is an interesting one, right? Because I never want to say this and then want people to think like you got to go to a party, be like, listen, this is how I'm eating, guys. Okay, like, is this, everybody hear me? Like, this is what I'm gonna do. We don't want people to be doing that because it's a little excessive and a little unnecessary. But we do want people to be armed with ways to address these types of things. And if you guys listened a few podcasts ago to the like, are you going to eat that podcast? We went through some of the most common scenarios, and it's so funny because they were so dichotomous, right? It was like, it was either like, are you going to eat all that? Or like, that's all you're eating? Like all of these things that
Yeah.
were so back and forth, right? And this is very,
Yeah.
very common. And if you listen to that podcast, I would really recommend it because we gave some really practical tips. But most people are not being malicious. They're not going out of their way to like think all day and all night about what did Sam eat at the party? Like really, like nobody cares. They're just making a comment in that situation. Maybe if you're presenting like disordered eating patterns like over and over and over again, like somebody might actually say something to you that is like necessary. But if it's
Yeah.
just like a comment, being able to express your goals to people in a clear, concise, and non-condescending way is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's also important for you to have that tool so that you can not let those comments get to you, because it can be really easy if you don't have a way to like feel like you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. You don't, like, that's fine, but it can feel better to have an explanation, to have a reason, so that when someone says like, that's all you're going to eat, you can say, yeah, because this is what my goal is right now and this is what I have to do right now, and that, I'm good with that. Then you can feel good about it, as opposed to being like, well, yeah, but I mean, I eat more sometimes, but like right now I'm just, it's like, because it can feel that way. It can feel like you have to justify, but it's not a justification. It's an explanation, and it's standing firm with what you're doing and why you're doing it. Same goes on the other end. Like, you're going to eat all that. Yeah, I am, because I'm on a muscle building phase right now, and I'm enjoying food. Or yeah, because I'm working on incorporating like some balance to my life, and this is a day that I want to eat more. And tomorrow maybe I'll eat less, maybe I won't. And yeah, but being able to have those explanations can help you feel better about your decisions, less attacked, and like you said, like, not come off like an asshole, just being like, who cares? It's none of your business, man.
Yeah, like, hey, relax. Nobody wants that. And I get it. We've all been in situations where, like, Jesus Christ, one person gonna ask me again what I'm doing. Like, it can get old, especially if you are prepping for like a competition. And generally speaking, that's obviously going to be extreme. You already look crazy, and then you're probably eating something crazy. So like that kind of, like, I get it. It gets old, but you kind of just have to have that response and then just move forward. And ultimately, if you are doing something that you want to be doing for your goals and like your future self, you should feel very confident with what you're saying. And I know that takes practice and that takes time, because there are things, like peer pressure and just influence. And, there's going to be certain people, like we said before, there are things that kind of set you off. Sometimes it's not like food or alcohol, it's the people you're with. Oh, when I'm with these people, I always do this because they drink a lot, or they eat a lot, or they're just really sedentary, or whatever it might be. Or they're the opposite, they eat really healthy, they're really active, they don't have any alcohol. Like, you could have different groups of friends or family members that kind of set you off in a different direction, and you have to be prepared for that. So as a coach, we're trying to get that type of information from people. And if they're just saying, oh, it's really hard for me every time I see my family, why? Is it because they're always saying rude things to you? Is it because they drink a lot and are pressuring you to do that? Is it because they cook very unhealthy? Is it because they don't understand what your goal is, right? Like, there's all these different things that it could be. So we need to figure out that first. And oftentimes this internalization is way worse. Like, we're like, oh my gosh, I did or didn't do X, so I must be the outcast, or I'm the loser, or I'm weird, or I'm like, most of the time that internalization of like what we feel is way more extreme than what other people are saying about the situation. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, most people are just making a comment, and they're really not going to go home and think about it. Now, there are certainly people who will, and maybe they have reason to, maybe they don't, but it's okay. So I would say that that internalization is what we want to avoid as much as possible. I mean, it might be there, and especially in the beginning, as you are learning to adjust to this. And like I said, it might not just be around certain things that set you off. It could be people or groups of people. So it is something that you have to work through. And especially with these food-centric events, if it's like, hey, this group of friends always has this type of barbecue, right? Like, or whatever, like, oh, here we go again, right? And ultimately, it's like, sometimes that's okay too. Like, I know, okay, when I go see certain people, like, I'm probably going to eat more. When I go to see certain people, I'm going to drink more. When I go to see other people, we're going to be super fucking active and training and like prepping everything. Like, it just kind of depends on who you're with. And, other people would say that about you too, right? Like, oh, when I hang out with Lauren, this is going to happen. Or when I hang out with Sam, this is probably going to be like, right? Like, that's the reality. Everybody probably knows what they're going to say about me. Like, Lauren's going to push drinks on me. We all know that's true. But like, so it's just going to depend on everything. So that's where, if you are struggling as the client, or just anybody listening like that, you have to really identify what is causing that, whether it's people or things. Another thing I did want to talk about too is overcompensating, right? And you kind of touched on this before, Sam, but like, we want to avoid any type of, overdoing it or underdoing it afterwards, and any kind of just compensatory behaviors, before or after. And do you want to touch on that? Like, what would be some of the things that we want to avoid?
Yeah. And this is probably the thing that most people do before. Like, I mean, I think clients will still do this, but a lot of times, like, this is just like a common behavior, and it's really conditioned in us to overcompensate. And so, we have a big event on the weekend, so you have overeaten, and so you go into Monday and you're like, okay, I overdid this weekend, I gotta rein it in. Undereat, you overcompensate, you restrict all week long, you get tired from restricting all week long. Let's be honest, you probably don't make it all week, you probably make it to Thursday, and you're like, oh my God, I just can't do this. And then what happens? You overdo it again, and it becomes this vicious cycle. And that you can see how that doesn't lead to any kind of consistency. It doesn't lead to any type of pattern. It throws off your entire body, and mentally it is so draining. And so if we can get better at letting it go, especially if you have like if you've overdone it, being able to get back just to your normalcy is going to be your best option. But also if we can work on not overdoing it and letting enough be enough. And that goes back to black and white thinking. Like if I'm going to go to this event and there's going to be a bunch of food there, then I got to eat all of it to make it worth it, which is always something that like it's something I realized recently and it really like stuck with me. What does worth it mean? Like why do you have to eat everything to make it worth it? What's the value in that? What are you defining as worth? So instead of thinking I have to go all in or all out, how can we create balance in your life, and how can we plan for that? How can we again let enough be enough and then move on?
And that is a struggle. I mean, that's something that I've, I'm sure you've dealt with it. I've dealt with it.
Mhm.
You are somewhere and you're like, oh, well, I'm already here. I've already started. I might as well just finish the job, right? Like if I already started eating this cake, might as well finish the whole cake. And
Yeah.
probably wouldn't recommend eating a whole cake, but I think we've all been in those types. I mean, guess it depends on the cake. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Not advice that we're giving out. Don't eat a whole cake. You didn't hear that from us. Um, I mean, it's some reference. Locovit podcast, that number. Just you said to eat a whole cake, so I went and ate a whole cake, and it did not end well. So yeah, don't do that, guys. But you know what I mean. Like we've all been there, but it is interesting. You're like, what is making this worth it? And that's actually something
Mhm.
that I do try to shift the focus, and it's not about necessarily putting a priority over certain things, but it's about being realistic, right? So we are presented with so many food centric events, and whether worth is the right word or not, there's going to be times where it's like, all right, I'm presented with a situation where there's a lot of food here, but like, let's be honest, it's not that great, but it looks pretty tasty and it's calorie dense, but like, is it really that good? Right? Like a
Yeah.
store-bought cake or, whatever, like some kind of catered event, like, or hey, that's happening on this Wednesday. On Saturday, though, we're trying this new restaurant that has all these amazing reviews and we're going with a group of
Mhm.
friends. And it's like, that's probably a better option to weigh for like, all right, if we're going to have an untracked meal, we're going to have a higher calorie meal, whatever it is, probably put it there because
Mhm.
that's going to make more sense. The Wednesday with like the mediocre food, that's just
Mhm.
being presented with a lot of options that look palatable, but like, do you really want those versus something that's
Yeah.
like, man, like that actually looks like it would be a lot better and a lot more exciting for me to enjoy. So I think it's just also
Yeah.
about like figuring out the priority of the week, and that requires a little bit of planning. But most of us, I mean, unless you have like the world's craziest schedule, most of us have a rough idea of like what's going on in the week. Like things do pop up. Yep, something got catered, had to go out here, had to do this. Like shit happens. But generally speaking, it's probably going to be 1 or 2 times a week that something like exciting like that comes up. So the other one's just kind of like, huh, it's here. I'm going to see it, but I just need to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know
Oh,
if I
it
said
totally
that
makes
right.
sense.
I'm trying to figure out the right word because worth is not the
Yeah.
right word. You're right. It's like, what is the word there? It'll come to me maybe.
Yeah. And I can't think of a better word either. And you're right. I don't think worth, like you have to define worth in any situation,
Yeah.
no matter, it is what it is. But like with those kind of things, it's just making that choice of what, um, I guess one other thing like with that too is like, are you going to be able to have this again? Like that could be a really big thing for people. It's like, this, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's that diet mentality or the restrictive mentality where it's like, I'm here, this is here. I have to eat this because I don't know when I'm going to be able to eat it again. And it's like, this is your mom's like your mom's cookies. She makes them every time you're home. Like I was just talking about, my mom does that. I don't need to eat them because I know I'm going to get them again. If now's not the time to eat them,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? But if I'm at that 5-star restaurant in a city I've never been to before, and they have this special dessert that is what they're known for, then like, hell yeah, that's something that I want to eat. But because I'm not going to see it again. And that can be, like when you're at that dessert table, like what there is, you know, more rare or again a higher priority. If someone out there has a better word for this, like
I think priority is a good word. Man, y'all know we're not good at on the spot. Like I'm not good at thinking on my feet. Like I'm just not good.
We're about to both shut down.
Yeah, we're just like, I'm like, we're just gonna end the podcast now. I don't know what to say.
Just like
all the like juice was like. Listen, I'm good with a set of notes. I can't think quickly. Okay. But last but not least, let's bring it home. We have one more point that is going to be really useful, and this is probably our favorite point, most practical point, is bring something.
Yeah.
This is always super easy because then you're able to control at least one thing. And you're able to feel good about, okay, I made this, I brought it, I contributed, I actually helped. And then you also know, okay, this is something that I will be able to eat. Like worst case scenario, there's something there, not even necessarily that it's like not on your plan. What if you just don't like a lot of the food that's there and you don't want to be like rude either? You know, like, hey, at least you have something that you can eat. Like there's that too.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also like, I don't know, it's kind of fun to be the, like, not that other people don't bring healthy options, but it's nice to be somebody who brings a healthy option that's good and that people are like, oh, like this is like, I guess we don't have to have all things like drenched in butter and cheese. That just what you want, Lauren, is all the cheese.
Yeah.
But I really like bringing things like shrimp cocktail. Like that's a really easy thing. Protein, like it, easy, like pot, put it in a bowl. There you go. Chicken skewers, like air fried chicken wings. I like to bring the protein because usually that's the thing that's lacking. Outside of like hot dogs. And then like fruit and veggie trays. Dude, a hot dog sounds good actually, but anyway.
Bro, what?
Laura's like gagging if you can't see her right
now. I don't know. I'm like, I think hot dogs are just so weird. Like,
yeah, I'll take it.
I know people like
them. Summer. It's summer. You have to have a hot dog.
Do you like corn dogs?
No.
Okay.
I don't like food on a stick. That doesn't feel right to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't like any of it, but I find it interesting that people.
Oh. I was gonna say, you won't eat a hot dog, but you eat a corn dog?
No. You're like, well, that's an interesting dichotomy.
As long as it's breaded on a stick, then I'm good.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I do love cornbread though. So like all the team cornbread all the way, but
I like
put a hot dog in it.
I do. But anyway, you can totally bring the protein, bring your fruits and veggies.
You like host a party and it's just corn dogs and cheese, and I'm like, I gotta leave.
I'm out. Damn it. That's what I wanted to have you over for. When you finally make it up to Michigan, where I don't live.
Oh
but I live in Minnesota. Lauren thinks I live in Michigan. But when you finally come up, we're gonna have just hot dogs and cheese.
Perfect. I'm gonna lose so much weight that weekend. It's gonna be just I'm fasting. I went on an unintentional fast, guys. I was totally planning this. Yes, whenever
bring your own food. Bring your own shareable.
If I brought my own shrimp cocktail, we'd be good. Which actually, that's a really great idea because shrimp cocktails. No, who doesn't like shrimp cocktail? It's like my favorite thing ever. I think a lot of people know that. I love it. But then also, yeah, like a fruit salad, or like veggies and hummus or something like that. Like it's just so easy. It's thoughtful, and it also, allows you to have something like as your backup, like just in case. But yeah, so we really hope that this was helpful, guys. Food-centric events are everywhere during the summer. Like we talked about, they just seem to like kind of be a little bit more sneaky than like holidays, because those seem to be more pre-planned, whereas this is like, hey, last minute barbecue, or like going to the lake or the beach or the pool, whatever, water people live near, something like that. I don't know. Is it a lake or what do you live next to, or
lake?
Okay, lake. Yeah. Okay. You know what?
We're the land of 10,000 lakes up here.
Okay. Yeah. I will never live down when I was in Chicago and I called it a beach. Like I will never live that down. I think everybody is just infinitely like sad that I thought there was a beach in Chicago, but that's what you get living in.
There is.
It's a lake though.
Like on like. Oh, awesome. Okay. I guess I would have been right there with you. Sorry.
See?
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, the beach here is so pretty. It
Okay.
looks so
We have
nice.
to-
I was like,
That's funny.
no, that's a lake. In any case, that's me and my geography. It's just zero. So no corn dogs, no geography, and definitely no cheese. So all right, guys. Well, yeah. Hope this was useful. If you have any questions, of course, you can let us know. You can visit teamlocofit.com to send us a contact email. You can apply for coaching or check out any of the articles or other podcasts that we've done as well. So we will talk to you guys on Wednesday.